So you have yourself a telephoto lens, but it's not working correctly. Maybe it's time to sell it. Maybe it's time to give it away. Maybe it's time to put it away in the cupboard and never shoot a telephoto lens again. Or maybe there's something that you can fix and it's quite simple and that, well, will save your lens. So first of all, who am I? Well, my name is Mike Patterson. I'm a professional full-time photographer located here in Southern Alberta, Canada. I've been doing this for over 39 years. I make my living full-time in photography. I also run a full-service photo lab. Now, as part of this service through the photo lab, I will test people's cameras and lenses to make sure that they're sharp, to make sure they're focusing correctly. And this time of year, I get a ton, and I mean a ton of phone calls from people. I got a telephoto lens for Christmas and it's not sharp. I got a telephoto lens, I've had it for 6 months, it's all of a sudden not sharp. I have a telephoto lens, I've had it for 3 years, it's not sharp. What's wrong? And they're panicking. Well, just save the panic for a few minutes. I'll tell you what you can do or what's causing it and how you may be able to get around it. But first, some fun facts. Over the years, talking to different people, especially lately, I find that 99% of the people out there actually have a Sigma 150 to 600 lens. I find that amazing that Sigma has made that much of an impact into the market. A few of the people that come in here have a Sigma 150 to 500. Few of the people have a Tamron 150 to 500, 150 to 600. And very few people that come in here have a fixed 600 millimeter or 800 millimeter lens, mainly because they're so stinking expensive. But no matter what lens they have the same problem. And it's a problem that starts around this time of year here in Southern Alberta or in Canada or in the Northern Hemisphere, and it will go for the next few months. And people constantly phone me up and they don't believe me when I tell them. They still bring their camera and lenses in for me to test them, which, hey, I don't mind. I charge $50 for it. So, hey, bring it in if you don't want to believe me. But there's a reason that they're not focusing. There's a reason that they're not sharp. What is that reason? Well, the reason is this. When you get really cold air or really cold ground and then warm air or warm ground, so whatever the vice versa is there. So cold ground, warm air, cold air, warm ground, and you start getting heat rays, heat vapors in the atmosphere, and you're shooting over long distances, it makes your lens look like it's not in focus. And I get it constantly. The other thing that causes this is when the sun is low on the horizon, which it is this time of year in the Northern Hemisphere, and there's dust or there's haze or there's a fog or there's ice crystals, and you're shooting over long distances. And that's why people notice it on their telephoto lenses. They don't notice it on their wide-angle lenses. They don't notice on intermediate lenses like around the 100 or even 200 millimeter mark. But they notice on their telephoto lenses because they're shooting so far and they're bringing in their subjects closer, which is what a telephoto lens is for. But they're also bringing in all that atmospheric pollution, and that's causing their lens to look soft. It's causing their lens not to be as sharp as it was 2 months ago or 3 months ago. Or if it's a new lens, they're disappointed because it's just not sharp enough. So what can you do? Well, here's a quick test that you can do at home. Or if you haven't got room at home to do it, go to a park and do it. Take your lens and shoot over a long distance. So I mean a kilometer or a mile if you're not in the metric system. And bring in a subject over that distance. A bird, a tree, a branch, a rock, or whatever. Then go closer to a subject and shoot that subject where it's maybe 10 feet away from you, 8 feet away from you. Then take those pictures back and look at them. Is the subject that's a long distance away the soft one? If it is, and the subject that is closer is nice and sharp, it's probably all that atmospheric contamination, if you want to say it that way, all the atmospheric vapors, all the atmospheric interference that is causing your lens not to be sharp. Now, this happens with the atmosphere, but it also happens in another situation. And I get a lot of people that have this issue, even me. And this is one of my areas that I have to really keep my mind about me when I'm shooting. I like to shoot from my vehicle because I got a lot of gear. And when it's stinking cold outside, I really don't like going out and standing when it's 30 below in the 30 below temperatures. I just don't like it. So I like to shoot from my vehicle. Big problem though. Your vehicle is 25 or 30 degrees Celsius. It's nice and toasty warm, which is like 74 or 80 degrees Fahrenheit. It's beautiful. It's warm. Your electric heated seats on, and you have your coffee or your hot chocolate next to you, and it's so nice and warm. So you power down the windows and you shoot out the window, and you all of a sudden notice it's really bad. Well, here's the reason. Your vehicle is so warm and it's so cold outside that as soon as you do that, as soon as you power down your window, the atmosphere and the heat and the cold and everything start mixing, and you start getting a lot of heat vapors, heat rays leaving the vehicle and mixing with the cold air outside, and you're shooting through that. Add to that, your camera's 75, 80 degrees Fahrenheit, which like again, 20, 25, 30 degrees Celsius, and it's nice and warm, toasty warm, and you're all of a sudden sticking this thing out in the cold air. And all of a sudden you're getting condensation on it, you're getting a fog buildup inside of it, you get all this stuff that's interfering with your picture. So what can you do? Well, there's a couple things that you can do that are easy, and there's one thing that's, you just can't get around it. First thing, the easy thing is keep your car cooler, even downright cold. Don't keep it toasty warm. Keep it cold. And if you're going to shoot from your vehicle, keep your camera cold as well. And then when you're shooting outside, you don't get as much of that fog buildup. You don't get as much of that heat vapor, cold vapor things mixing. But honestly, get out of the car. Get away from the car. Keep your camera cold as well. It takes about 5 minutes for a camera to cool down, to get to a temperature where you're going to get rid of that condensation. Even longer if it's really humid in your vehicle, or you brought it from a humid house into a humid vehicle, and then you're going outside where it's really cold and dry, you're going to notice that you're going to get fog buildup, all this misty stuff on it. You're going to get vapor. You're going to get yucky stuff. So keep your camera as close to being dry as possible. I always tell people, get a Ziploc bag. Now with a big telephoto lens, it has to be a big Ziploc bag. Keep your camera dry. Put some rice packets in there. Put some silica in there. Something to keep it dry. If it's a humid car, if it's a humid house that you're living in, that you're driving in. And then when you get to where you're going to take pictures, take it out from that humidity and then let it cool off out there. But shoot when your camera is cooler. Shoot when the camera matches the atmosphere that you're shooting from. Now, the next thing, and this, there is no beating it. There just isn't. And that is when you're shooting and it's really cold atmosphere and warm ground or vice versa, honestly, if you're shooting over a long distance, you're going to get that misty, that out of focus, that haze, that just the yuckiness. There is no filter that will cut through it. I've heard people say, oh, just get a UV filter or just get a haze filter. It doesn't cut through it. It changes the look of the picture, but it doesn't cut through it. This is actually atmospheric disturbance that's causing it. It's not just a light ray. It's not just a color of light. It's actually because of all the stuff mixing. Next thing, you can go out when it's really cold. So when the air is cold and the ground's cold. Or go when it's warmer, when the ground's warm and the air's warm. Now, that doesn't happen a lot around here. Usually when the ground freezes, it stays frozen for the winter. And if it's on a warmer day, the ground will be ridiculously cold and the air will be ridiculously warm. And right in between where they mix, where they touch, is where most of the animals are. That's where the coyotes are. That's where the elk are. That's where the bears are, if the bears are out this time of year. That's where the deer are, the rams and all that. They're right down at ground level. Birds, you don't notice it as much because the birds are up higher. And as long as you're up higher, you're away from that when you're shooting, you don't notice that as much. But you will notice it if the subject is close to the ground. And the only way to beat it, the only way to get out of it is don't shoot so far away. And I know it's not easy. If you see that animal and you want 600 millimeters and pull it in nice and close, honestly, try to get as close as you can to your subject or don't shoot that far away. If you are going to shoot that far away, if you are going to take those pictures, do fixes in post. Run contrast on it, increase the contrast a little bit, sharpen it up on the computer, and make it look a little bit better that way. But understand there's only so much that you can do to improve it. But don't sell your camera, don't sell your lens, don't give up on it. It's not you, it's not your equipment. It's probably just the atmosphere that you're shooting in. So until next time, have a wonderful day. Get out there and take some pictures. Just make sure that you're following the rules that I just gave you, and have a great time doing it. Bye-bye now.